as we're here today, I wanted to welcome you to this particular show. I'm so excited because we have Dr. Peacock with us, and I'm so glad that she took the time out of her busy schedule to come here today and to have a discussion. So I hope you guys would, give her some love in the comments as well. So please make sure to like and subscribe and share. That really does help the channel to grow. So as you know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So with that being said, I wanted to have a discussion, like I was saying before, about the mental health and mental health challenges and some resolves that can help us. So hence why I invited our special guest, Dr. Regina Peacock, to have a discussion with me. So with no further ado, if you could go ahead and welcome Dr. Peacock. How are you, beautiful?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you. I'm glad to be here and share any knowledge that I have.
Can you do me a favor and tell my YouTube listeners your credentials, your profession, and a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I'm Regina Peacock, and I'm the clinical director of Healthy Mind and Brain Center, the founder and the owner. It's a group practice, and what we do here is we serve the Inland Empire community, Kaiser community. We serve different variety of communities here, just the mental health community as a whole. And I have a long history in psychology. I taught psychology for 15 years. I just finished a doctorate in psychology, a PhD in psychology, all but dissertation. And I have another doctorate degree in executive leadership, and I am a licensed clinical therapist.
Wow. Quite a resume. So obviously, Dr. Peacock, we have had our own private conversations about my mental health, my challenges and struggles, especially with me finding a therapist, and which I've told you many times how happy I am to have found you. So let me ask you, Dr. Peacock, before I share, some of my struggles with, finding someone, to speak to like yourself. Were you aware of some of those challenges that can occur for someone struggling with their mental health with finding a therapist like yourself?
I definitely am aware, and I think that, there's several problems, and there's several issues that kind of come up here. One is insurance. Somebody doesn't have insurance, then it's going to be an issue in accessing mental health. But there are things that people can do, in that case. I think even when you do have insurance and you do have a provider, it's important to get with your provider and find a good fit. Finding a good fit for you and your therapist. Somebody who understands your needs, somebody who understands you, and that specializes in, what your unique condition is. So it's not one fits all. So you really have to speak to different therapists and do consultations and see, do you understand, do you specialize in what I'm dealing with? And do you understand what I'm going through? And can you help me? So it's a lot of different type of variables there. But I do think that, the providers' insurance really, should strive to make sure that they're connecting people to, possible therapists, giving them a plethora of options.
I agree completely. That would make it a lot more easier for, us that are dealing with mental health in some way.
For sure.
Because it actually is so frustrating and stresses us out even more when we have to go to, doctor after doctor, or see,
always hate to hear about that.
From visit to visit, so that we can, just get some help,
Sure.
And then sometimes you just fall to the wayside. So I really appreciate you sharing that with me and with us.
You're welcome.
So, this is another question that I think is something that pertains not only to the African American community, but also the Hispanic community as well. So there is a stigma associated with those in the Black and brown communities when it comes to speaking with someone like a therapist. What would you personally say to those people that may have those same views?
I would say, one, I understand. I definitely understand why you have that view, because there are some, serious societal expectations that influence how people think and how people feel, right? So we do know that. But at the same time, we should not look at that mental health or having a mental health issue as a weakness. We should look at that as a strength. And in terms of reaching out and asking for help, that is a strength. That's not a weakness. Or just recognizing that sometimes things are beyond me. And I think it takes a lot of courage to come out and say, hey, I need some help, and I highly encourage anybody to do that. But, we are definitely going to have to prioritize our own mental health and not feed into the societal expectation or the gender roles and different things that, people think that you should and should not do. No, you have to be more self-reliant and say, I need to be in control and prioritize my own mental health and reach out. Because, at the end of the day, if you don't, there's gonna be some mental suffering there. We don't ever want anybody to be in a situation of that.
Absolutely. So in 2021, the National Center for Health noted that a little over 1 in 4 women, 25.6% to 14.6% of men have received mental health treatment in the past 12 months. With that being said, Dr. Peacock, are you surprised that the statistics in regards to mental health treatment are higher for women than for men?
No. Well, we can't be surprised, because if going back to similar to what we just talked about, if we look at societal expectations and we look at gender roles or norms, we see men are kind of socialized a little bit different, right? And so they're more socialized to think that, expressing your emotions is a weakness. That it's not okay to ask for help, or you shouldn't get emotional, or you shouldn't get. And so when you kind of have those socialization experiences, then you kind of don't, when you really find yourself in a situation where you need help, or you really feel like something's beyond you, you don't want to reach out. Oh my gosh. We didn't anticipate
Sorry
that one.
about that. Okay, go
You're gonna
ahead.
cut that part out?
We'll keep it in. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So, no, I'm not surprised, because men are socialized. There's a different type of expectation with men, right? So that's why we have those kind of disparities between men and women, and we have those statistics where women are more, kind of used to operating in their emotions and feeling comfortable talking to people, their friends, their girlfriends, about their emotional issues. Men are not socialized necessarily to do that all the time. So you're going to see that difference.
That makes sense. So I wanted to, find out some of the statistics that were out there, especially for 2023, right? So I looked on Google, and it says that as far as depressive symptoms grew from a base of about 193 million people worldwide to 246 million, which is about a 28% increase, and anxiety disorders grew from about 298 million people affected to 374 million, which is about a 25% increase. And the Mental Health of America said, as regards to youth, 11.5% of them are experiencing severe depression, which is over 2.7 million of youth. And so I found that very impactful, because it actually gave me like a number reference. And so that's why I wanted to look that up. And that really ties into my next question. Now, right here, this question, you guys, those of you on YouTube, you know that is certain words that we can't use on YouTube. So I'm going to spell one of these words out in this particular question, and just so you can know, Dr. Peacock too. So Because certain words you can't just actually say.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I know, but.
So, I know this might be a hard question to answer, but in your opinion, Dr. Peacock, do you think the severe depression among our youth can be associated with the rise in school, SHOOTINGS?
Okay, so I think and it's a very emotionally charged and sensitive topic, but I think for the children who are actually in the schools, who have been in the schools, where there have been, that type of level of trauma where people have, come in and done that, then yes, they are most impacted, right? Because they're in the environment. They're in the very environment that is happening. And they would more than likely experience anxiety, experience deep depression, having lost a friend, or anxiety of the potential of that happening again in the future. But for most teens, if you take them across the board where that level of violence hasn't occurred in schools, there's other issues. And we cannot connect just that, the fear of something like that happening to teen depression, because there's so many other more kind of salient issues going on here. We have cyberbullying. Kids are on social media. There's a lot of comparing. And there's a lot of, bullying in schools. You have the LGBT community who transgender, who are, with certain peers are not accepted. They're getting teased. There's a whole lot of other things that are going into why teenagers are committing suicide at an all-time rate. And it's more now than it ever has been. But there's a lot. You have poor familial conditions, parenting, parents aren't accepting kids and wanting to express themselves different. And yeah, you have a lot going on here. So it's not just shootings. I say in those schools where shootings happen, for sure, there's definitely some serious trauma there. But overall in teens, yeah, they're dealing with a lot of different issues.
And that's why we as parents, we really got to keep the lines of communication open. I know that's been really good for me and my kids, is just to make them feel like comfortable. Right. Let their home feel like home, where they would want to come and share certain things with you if you're going to be that parent.
Absolutely.
That is not, in depth with your kids, or not letting them know, like, look, I love you unconditionally. So no matter what it is, you can always talk to me. They're not going to feel comfortable. They're going to want to go talk to their friends instead of their parents. And so we have to make that peaceful home for our kids so that they
open. Yes, definitely open to communication and open to just, express how they feel. You may not like how these children feel. You may not think it's, but, people have to understand children are on a different cognitive pathway than adults are, right? They're just growing. Their brain is not even fully developed at age 21. So they don't see things the way other people see. They don't see things as somebody would expect them to see things. But we need to understand how you see it and meet you where, and for us as parents to meet children where they are and help them learn and grow and help them, develop the knowledge and the steps. Because when they feel cut off, that's it. They feel on their own. They feel isolated, they feel lonely. And this is what leads to those feelings of suicide. Depression, if you put it on a scale of 1 to 10 and it drops down to a 2, well, then they're already looking for an escape. They're super low in their mood, and they don't, they feel like, nobody's listening. Nobody understands me. Everybody wants to be understood. And I think we have to do far more to understand people in general, understand children for sure, and understand that how we think, they don't think that way. We think, oh, how can you think that way? Well, because cognitively, they're not on that level, right? That's why they think that way.
It's true. That's true. We just have to be on guard. We have to, keep our eyes open. I think as a society, not just as parents, but as a society, keep our eyes open. I know it was a situation, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you, but there was a situation with my kids when they were in high school. They're both grown now, but when they were in high school, it was a particular day they didn't go to school because they didn't feel good. But I got a call at work, and it was the school, basically to let me know that they were on basically a manifesto list. Yes, they were the two that were listed. And
Wow.
the day that they didn't go to school, it was right here in Hesperia, California. And the day that they didn't go to school, he came there with a backpack full of ammunition. And they caught him at the door. It looked like they had been watching him. And they caught him. So they wanted to let me know, as a parent, this is what took place. We'll email you all the details. And then you can go,
Wow.
further. Yeah. But both of my daughters' names were on that manifesto. And so I think for me as a parent, as a single parent at the time, that was tough.
I bet.
But I also made sure that my kids, if they needed to speak to someone, they could also speak to someone. Because just knowing that, even though you weren't at school that day, and then some of your friends were on that list as well, and that was because of being popular and because of their grade point average. That's how he based it on.
Wow.
Popularity and grade point average. So when you think of those type of things, you know what I mean, it really brings it home for you. And that's why in preparing the questions that I wanted us to discuss, that was one of the reasons that,
Well, I can see that.
yeah,
For sure.
I thought about
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? Because some people just looking on the outside might just tie those two things, in, right? So let's go on and move on. Woo! So in 2023, I was curious about this too. Sometimes I get curious in the middle of the night and I look up stats, or I'm reading this particular, thing that I see on the internet or something else. And I wanted to know how many mass shootings there were, up to date for 2023 worldwide. It's been 199 thus far. And I was thinking okay, January to May. Wow.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So something is happening in our community where they need to be able to express themselves and talk to someone. You know what I mean? Because that helps so much when you're dealing with stress and whatnot, right? Just my personal opinion. This is not the opinion of everyone else. It's just my personal opinion, okay? So now, if someone may need to speak to someone, but their insurance doesn't cover it, and we kind of dealt with that a little earlier, what is some things that they could do at home that, can help them with their mental issues that they're dealing with? Is there any techniques that they could use at home to help with that?
Well, kind of two things. I think if people don't, we got to be kind of resourceful. So
Okay.
we do want to draw first on our family and friends support that are very positive, that can support you. You definitely don't want to go to a person that's going to judge you and make you feel worse than what you feel. You got to be careful of that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to your family and friends for support, if you don't have insurance, but then you can also go and access behavioral health. Call the nearest behavioral health center, and they have to see you regardless. There's a crisis center, there's 1-800 numbers, and that would be good for you to provide that as well.
Yes, I actually looked up some,
Mm-hmm.
so I will provide that at the end of this.
That would be good. So everybody can definitely have someone to talk to when they need someone to talk to if they get in a distress or serious situation. But then I think techniques or something, because everybody's mental health is different.
Mm-hmm.
You have anxiety, you have depression, you have some people are dealing with OCD issues, some people are dealing with bipolar, just different. There's so many different things that people are dealing with. So it's kind of hard to put a Band-Aid and give one just universal kind of technique. But I will say this, that it's critical that one, you go to the doctor, and check out any biological or any just kind of physiological conditions that you may have. So, a lot of people suffer from depression, from hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. So we want to kind of rule these things out. We definitely want to get hormonal checks, get a whole physical checkup, because sometimes a lot of things that are happening with us come from the body, right? And then another thing we need to pay attention to is psychological wise is our thoughts. And like, where are you thinking? You know, in the future, it's going to encounter anxiety. Thinking in the past, it's going to be depression. So, you know, kind of want to kind of keep ourselves in the present and deal with things in the future and in the past according, you know, to a healthy way. Because if we ruminate on things, or we, you know, just stay on the same subject in the past, and okay, you're gonna feel depressed. So we have to pay attention to where our thoughts are and how we're thinking. Are we thinking all or nothing? Are we thinking the sky's falling, it's the end of the world? Catastrophic thinking. Those kind of things are going to cause some issues. So we want to pay attention to our thoughts. We do want to think positive. We do want to think in the, you know, the right direction. There's a right direction that we, you know, can think in, and that can promote better mental health and well-being. But then also environment. This is a big, gigantic key here, is to, you know, when I always say peace is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. You can't just want peace and like, bam, it's here. You really have to live it, create it. And with your environment, you have to make sure that things are operating in your environment. Like, you don't have all these stressors. If you're, you know, some people have their job that they don't like, they can't stand. They have conflict at the job, conflict at home, children, you know, legal issues, financial issues. We need to kind of get those things smooth, right? Because all those things have direct contact to us and connection to us, and we'll give you stress and anxiety.
If I could interrupt for a second too, and a lot of people that have a lot of those issues, they try to bring them to you. So you're dealing with your mental health issues, and you're trying to stay sane and stay in that peaceful place, right? And they're trying to bring that to you. It's like, no. So you have to, yes, you have to
putting it on,
in harmony with what you were saying. You have to recognize it and be able to say, you know, no, I have to think about my mental health.
Sure.
And back up from the situation too. Sometimes we just want to help, but sometimes that can be at our detriment.
Sure.
So we have to keep that in mind as well. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no. we do. I think you're absolutely right. And we have to know when we're helping somebody and enabling somebody. There's a difference. So you have to know when you're helping or when you're enabling, right?
Yeah.
And then there's this spiritual component that I think everybody should be aware of, that, you know, I think as just individuals and human beings, we all search for meaning and fulfillment and happiness in life. But we have to be moving towards certain goals to feel that way, right? So a lot of people experience kind of wander experience where they feel like, well, why am I here? What am I doing? What's my purpose? You know, we have to be, we need, it's important for us. So that can create what's called an existential crisis. So we want to, you know, be moving towards at least setting some goals, having some visions, what you want to do, and letting go of some bad habits so that you can start moving in those directions, because that can also cause people to feel as if they don't know why they're existing. And so I would think that, you know, we all have to move forward towards creating more meaning and fulfillment in our lives, period. We have to.
As a person that, you know, because you're my actual therapist, which if those of you that are just jumping on don't know that, Dr. Peacock is my actual therapist, and she has given me so many tools. I just want to, you know, give you that praise, as it were, because you have helped me to realize my boundaries and to realize when someone's overstepping them. And so when they're overstepping them, this is what I got to say, because a lot of times I didn't want to hurt people's feelings. So I just kind of dealt with it, and it was, you know, hurting me inside. And so now that I'm able to speak that voice and say, look, not dealing with that, right? And sometimes I call you and I'm like, look, this is what I said.
You become quite an expert in that, for sure.
I appreciate those tools, and I actually use them. So those are some things for people like you out there, you know, listening to Dr. Peacock, that you can use as well. Another thing that I wanted to share too, like I said, I have dealt with mental health, I've dealt with anxiety and some other situations as well. And what I try to do, and Dr. Peacock kind of touched on it with the peace, in staying in my peaceful place, you know what I mean, then I try to put things around me that are peaceful also.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And also with doing that, I like water features. Water features is one thing that I like. And I found also like crystals, sage in your house. I do that every morning. Those type of things. If you don't believe in that, then just go ahead and omit this part of the video, right? But I think that really helps my vibration. You know what I mean? Going into my day, meditating, things of those nature. You know what I mean? So that is something else that, you know, you out there in YouTube land can actually use as well, for sure, because it's helped me tremendously. And plants. I've been planting. You know, I've been telling you about that as well.
Nature. Well, nature in and of itself is an amazing cathartic and kind of therapeutic, you know, connection that we have. So I definitely recommend that. But like you said, when you talk about what you do in the morning or some of the things that you do, I think it's good for people to have a morning mental routine. Routine where they wake up and it's just time that you spend with yourself, right? Because we have to have a lot of self-care. The body needs self-care in general. So if you wake up and you spend, you know, maybe 5 minutes meditating and you know, then reflection and just sitting still and listening to nature and being in tune, doing some grounding techniques and just being still and thinking, praying, whatever it is that somebody does. But, and then, you know, then think about what you have to do today. You know, kind of get your day mentally in your head. And let this be like a good 15, 20 minutes that you spend every single morning planning your day, or just that time you spend with yourself and with your body. That is completely restorative and, you know, rejuvenating for the body.
You know, I want to add, for those of you that are on YouTube as well, it's a particular lady that I've been listening to. She has like meditations, as far as like meditation music, or, you know, that you could listen to clear your head. Her name is Diane Edwards, and so you can look her up on her YouTube channel, Diane Edwards. And she, you know, I listen to her. You know, she has affirmations, but I also listen to her music, and then that gets me into that meditative state, you know, as far as what I need to do. So you guys could check her out as well. Let's go ahead and, you know, finish up our discussion, because I know you're a busy person. So I know you got to get going. And I really appreciate this time that you took out to be here, you know, on Speak Your Truth with Charlie. Hello. So in conclusion, Dr. Peacock, is there anything else you would like to share with the ladies and gentlemen listening to you right now on YouTube that have been trying to deal with their mental health struggles?
Only thing I can do is encourage people to, you know, take their mental health serious. And when the first sign that they feel like something is, you know, going on that's a little bit beyond them, is to reach out and ask for help. I think that's definitely a strength. It's not a weakness, and it takes a lot of courage to take your own and prioritize your own mental health. And I just encourage people to do that, and definitely find the right fit for your therapist. Not just any therapist is gonna, you know, meet your needs, I'm sure, because there's just not one size fits all here. And so I just want to encourage you to make sure you know, consult, do like a 15-minute consultation with any provider. It doesn't matter if it's a psychiatrist, anyone, and just see if they understand you and understand what you're saying. And they're going to treat you as an individual, not as, you know, the same as everybody else. And so other than just, you know, glad to be here, glad to have provided any information for this podcast. I applaud you for what you're doing, Charlie, and I always say Charlotte, but
okay.
So that's kind of different saying Charlie. But I applaud you for what you're doing, and I think it's just amazing that you know, want to bring more awareness to mental health and encourage people to stay on top of their mental health. I think that's great.
Absolutely. So, we're going to go ahead and close this out, but if you mentioned, I'm sorry, Dr. Peacock had mentioned earlier about some of the different organizations, so you could take note of those organizations that she mentioned, but in doing my own research as well, and it's funny because just this week of me just, watching, I've been watching the NBA games and stuff, so they even had something on there, and people
nice.
have really been reaching out to, different people that have mental health awareness. I've been seeing it on like almost every channel. And so I'm so glad for this month that they've brought even more awareness to it than I've ever seen. It's been everywhere. So the NBA has been, having it during the games. So they have something called mindhealthmba.com that you could go to a website. Also, I've seen BetterHelp, and I actually got on their website, and they'll go ahead and schedule you rather quickly on that website as well. They will help you to get matched up with the best therapist for you, just like you just said. I mean, I'm reading your mind here. And then the next helpline that I saw was SAMHSA, National Helpline. Let me repeat that. SAMHSA, National Helpline, and their number is 800-662-4357. Maybe I should get back into the camera so you guys can see me. But basically that's the National Helpline, and how they have their number, which I thought was really cute, 800-662-HELP. So the numeric form of that is 4357 for help, okay? And then Babes of Wellness, that was another thing that I caught. Normally on Sunday I get up and I watch George Stephanopoulos. I don't know if you ever watched the show.
No.
I love him so much. But it gives you a viewpoint of, politics, just everything happening in the world, both from the Democratic side and also the Republican side, which I find is very interesting. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times they feel the same way. You know what I mean? But they tug of war. So I find it very interesting. But anyway, so while I was watching George Stephanopoulos this past Sunday, Babes of Wellness came on.
Okay.
And they have exercises that can help with your mental health specifically. That's what they go ahead and gear them to. So I thought that was very interesting. Their number is 213-640-9365. Again, their number is 213-640-9365. And you can also find them on, online as well. So their name is Babes of Wellness, okay? So we're going to basically wrap this up, but Speak Your Truth with Charlie is a fairly new YouTube channel, everyone, and I want to dive into real topics with real facts, right? As you can see, I'm going to do my research so that I could bring you the real facts. I don't want to just bring you an assumption or my own viewpoint, right? So if you're interested in that, please like, subscribe, and share to this channel, and that again will help the channel to grow. Thank you so much to Dr. Peacock.
Thank you
for joining us. It is such a pleasure to have you, and I know again you have a busy schedule, so I am so glad that she was able to make it and be able to give you some tools that you can use in your mental health as well, with your mental health, so that you can have everything that you need. And who more better to do that than a doctor?
Aww.
Right? So did you want to provide any contact information, if like an email or anything? I forgot to mention that earlier, but if you want to give like your website, email, anything.
So that anybody can find my website at Healthy Mind and Brain Center, and they can find me at Regina at healthymindandbraincenter.org.com.
Okay, .org. You heard it. So you heard it here, everybody. Have a great day. Peace and blessings to you all. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, from right here at Speak Your Truth with Charlie, I'm going to say bye-bye, everyone.